had this idea, and in fact, the working title of the book was Empire's End, and it didn't have any apostrophes, no punctuation. It was just a statement, Empire's End. And I had this idea that I was living at a time. It was in Britain at a time of great turmoil. This was the Thatcher era. The IRA was blowing up bombs in London. Right before I got to Brighton, Margaret Thatcher almost got blown up in Brighton, and. We have this in the United States, especially among conservatives, we have this vision of Margaret Thatcher as this heroic woman who came in and picked up Britain off its knees and carried it forth. And in some sense, that is true, but it was a very tough time. I kind of saw it as a fulcrum in this notion of empire, that this grand country had gone into this state of post-war collapse and was just beginning to figure out how to pull itself off its knees. And at the same time, I was looking back at, I was an African history and African studies major. In fact, the reason I was at the University of Sussex, it had a very famous African development program, the AFRAS department, and I was very enamored with this whole idea. And I knew that the woman I was living with, Joanna, I knew that she had indeed married a Portuguese doctor. And I knew that she had somehow ended up in Angola and then somehow been swept into the Angolan Revolution and ended up in South Africa where, where something bad had happened, which ended up with her brother breaking his neck. And from there, I had to piece it together. But I had this notion of empires at different phases of collapse. So I had, I flashed from this Britain remaking itself from Stanley and Livingston to Sid Vicious and Johnny Rotten, and then I had this other idea of Portugal in this collapse, and Portugal, of course, never has really remade itself. It was at one time a tiny little country on the edge of the Iberian Peninsula. It became a vast empire. I mean, a really vast empire stretched from Brazil to Timor and what is now Indonesia, and Macau is a little outpost in China, Goa in India. It was a huge, amazing place with these two pearls, Angola and Mozambique in Africa, and it never has recovered. And there was a scene in the initial writing, it's not there anymore, where David, at the very end, David is walking down to Brighton Pier, and out of the shadows steps an East German prostitute who propositions him. And the point was only that there was the flotsam of the next empire was washing up on the shores of Britain, because this was 1988, and the Soviet Empire was just beginning its own collapse. So I felt like that time was such an amazing fulcrum. Remember, there was supposed to be the end of history. It didn't end, but at one time it was pronounced at that time. But thank you.
Hi guys, thanks for watching this Politics and Prose Events Essential. We are a bookstore, so if you're interested in checking out the books featured in this video, click here to buy it from our website. If you want to watch more highlights from our other spectacular events, click here. To watch the full version of this author's talk, click here. Or to stay up to date on all of our events, follow our social media accounts by clicking these guys down here. And don't forget to check out our whole channel and subscribe to our other videos. Do that by clicking on the Politics and Prose logo up here in this corner. Right here. Click. Thank you. So nice. So nice. You guys are the greatest. So great.